Welcome to the Increda-dental podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Flynn. Today, we're diving into a question that many dentists face in some point of their career, and that is it time to hire an associate? Bringing on an associate, a new dentist, an additional dentist is a big step. But I don't want you to be intimidated by it. I want you to recognize that there are clear numbers and strategies to bring on an associate that will help your practice. So we're going to talk about what to look for, the metrics, ways to hold off on hiring an associate, techniques and ideas. And then we're going to have part 2 later on, and that is how to hire an associate, expectations, how to manage those, and how to do so in a successful way. So today, part 1, new patient flow. That's one of the metrics you need to know. Start by looking at how many new patients are you attracting every month. You want to have at least 30 plus new patients every month for this new dentist, because patients have been drawn to you and they come to you because they love you being their dentist. They want to see you. And if you throw in a new dentist and expect everyone to like this new dentist, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Some people will insist, regardless of how much you want to push them off on the other dentist, to see you. And that's all right. That's why you need to have at least 30 plus new patients every month for this new dentist to teach. Now, if these numbers are low, hiring an associate is not going to solve your problem. You need to look at marketing. You need to look at if you're doing internal or external marketing, how patients are coming to you, and if there's something you need to expand on there. If you're already seeing, though, a steady increase in new patients month to month, you may need more chair time and availability to meet this demand, and that's where the new dentist comes in. Now, step number 2, recognizing case acceptance rate. You want to have a case acceptance rate around 70%. That's your goal. If you're kind of hanging low around 30 to 40%, you need to dive in and find out why people aren't moving forward with treatment. Is it a communication issue? Is it a time issue because there's not time available for them to come back and get the treatment done? Is it because you need third-party financing or patients aren't being approved for this third-party financing? What is going on to cause that number to be low? Because you may have 30, 40 new patients coming in every month, but if your case acceptance number is low, then you need to look at something else. Something else is going on in the practice, because the dentist may see, the new associate may see these new patients, but if they're not getting scheduled for treatment, then their schedule's empty and it's not helping your practice the way you want. And then we also see that when it's time for a new associate, we see dental offices where sometimes they work through lunch or they stay late, and then suddenly they start working through lunch every week, every day, and staying late every day, where it's always they're staying late. That's another indicator. It's time to look at hiring an associate. Now, interesting enough, most dentists have like a plateau where they do exams, where they stop diagnosing. So most dentists, anywhere around 140 to 170 exams per month, it is their plateau. And I'm talking also including comprehensive, limited, and periodic exams. And what we have happen is when dentists are doing more than this, is they start to not diagnose as much. So we call it diminishing returns, where they start watching things and they say, oh, we'll hold off on doing that treatment right now because they're overwhelmed by all the treatment that all their patients need. So be aware, if you're doing that many exams, you're starting to see a drop down on how effective your exams are just because of how many people are demanding your time. And then if you have a feeling of just being overworked and overwhelmed, and it's consistent, where you're dreading doing certain procedures and planning more watches, as I mentioned earlier, when you're doing this, this is another indicator that it's time for an associate. But there's also other indicators. So the front office is feeling overwhelmed. And this is what I mean by this, is that they can't get new patients in for treatment who desire treatment. There's no time in the restorative department for these patients to get scheduled. The follow-up treatment plans, they're not able to have time to follow up on people who have not completed treatment, as well as those recare appointments. They're not able to manage those because there is not time in the day because they're so busy. The front office can't schedule what doesn't exist. So you need to be able to create treatment time for these patients. Now, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, we're going to go over a couple reasons of ways to find time and to create more time in your schedule if you want to hold off from hiring an associate. But these are metrics to be aware of and pay attention to if you're thinking and if you're feeling ready to hire an associate. But if you want to hold off, I understand. There's a lot of concern hiring an associate. Now, what about the back office? The back office, if you have your 2 or 3 assistants and they're running around, they don't have time to check inventory. They're not able to research equipment that you stand in need of. You don't have time for staff meetings to help build your team and get your team working together. This is another way to know that it's time to start looking for another associate. Now, dollar treatment plan amount. Sometimes is what we see also is that the treatment plans are small. So a treatment plan might be like $400, $500, where it's a couple fillings, maybe 1 crown, where we're not diagnosing to our clinical scope, where we're not looking at retainers, night guards, sleep apnea devices. We're not looking at extractions and implants. We're keeping our treatment plan low just because we're overwhelmed. And so that's another option of recognizing if it's time to hire another dentist to your practice. Now, when you do not have time for emergencies or limited exams, that is important to your practice, because having emergencies is a beautiful way to bring new patients into your practice who really stand in need of a dentist. A lot of times emergency patients come to the practice because they haven't been to a dentist in a while. Maybe it's because they moved, maybe their dentist retired, or they simply forgot who their dentist was. But usually when they come to your practice as an emergency patient, they need a lot of treatment. And when they do this, they're wonderful patients to have in your practice. So if you don't have time to see emergency new patients or patients who are your own patients who are emergency patients, that's another metric to really be aware of. And then the inability to do same-day treatment is what I mean by this is if you see a patient in the hygiene chair, they have a small occlusal, tooth number 20, and you don't have any time to treat that patient that day while they're there in the chair, because patients love to do same-day treatment. The reason being they don't have to drive back to your office, they don't have to take time off work or find daycare, and it just makes it convenient for the patient, but it's also convenient for the team because that room is already ready for that patient. The patient's using that room, and you don't have to worry about confirming. If you already go over what the patient's portion is, you're good to go. And to do that 10-minute, 5-minute filling and see that patient while they're there is a wonderful way to build a positive rapport with the patient, but as well as taking care of your patients where they are. Now, if you're not quite ready to hire an associate, but you need help, here are a couple alternatives. So first off, you can hire a personal assistant, someone who will do the research on your new equipment, who will look over different items in your practice to help get systems going, such as a ReCare system in your practice. Another way is look at how much you're being reimbursed by your insurance company. If the insurance company is reimbursing you at a very low rate and it's making it so you're not profitable, you can let that insurance company go. But there are certain ways to do this and certain ways not to do this that will not affect as many patients leaving your practice. So be aware of that. And looking at what you're doing for a treatment plan for your patients, be willing to look at providing the patients with the best care, if you will, but instead of doing a large 4-surface filling, telling the patient, you really need a crown here. Being very clear with your communication and not shying away from diagnosing, because I do see this in practices where the dentist feels bad for the patient, letting them know, yes, you need a crown, but that's the best treatment for them. Now, if you need help with finding out if your insurance is killing you that you're a PPO provider for, that's what we do in Increda-dental. We're also personal assistants where we help research equipment, put in systems to help you to be more profitable. We cost a lot less than you think. Give us a call, 208-908-3152, or you can email us at increda.dental@gmail.com. We're here. Our goal is your success.